On September 11th, 2001, our American way of life was attacked. Everyone remembers where they were that day and how their lives changed from that moment on. The American Legion is committed to honoring the memories of those we lost on 9/11 and in the global war on terrorism that followed. As part of that commitment, the American Legion Tango Alpha Lima podcast presents a special series, 9/11-20-20-20. 20 episodes in the 20 days leading up to the 20th anniversary of the attacks that changed the world. Each of the 20 guests delivers a unique, first-hand perspective on 9/11 and our nation's response. Here is one of those remarkable stories.
All right, today we're joined by Jennifer Vollbrecht. Jennifer is the CEO and project manager of J. Vollbrecht Consulting. She holds a master's in business administration from Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University and is currently a doctoral candidate at St. Mary's College of California. Jennifer serves as vice president of the board at FIXD, F-I-X-D, an organization that works with veterans who are in the justice system or who need immediate access to behavioral health resources. She lives in Central California with her husband and 2 children, has been a member of Carl Ross Post 16 in Stockton, California since 2009. Jennifer served in the U.S. Marine Corps as combat aviator, and she was inspired to serve following the events of 9/11. So without ruining too much of it, Jennifer, why don't you tell us about your 9/11 experience and what's come since then?
Sure. Thanks for having me. So let's see, let's go back to 9/11. I was 15 years old. I was in high school when 9/11 kicked off. And I remember specifically, I was in my living room, and my aunt had called and she said, turn on the TV. You need to turn on the TV right now. And so I did. And as I turned on the TV, I saw the second plane hit the towers, and I remember how I felt. And I remember the days following, which is when I started to hear new words enter my 15-year-old vocabulary, words like terrorism. And I also just remember seeing the invasion of Iraq. I remember watching it on the news and having an intense feeling, as intense as a 15 or 16-year-old can be, of I need to be there. I need to be helping. They need me. They need me to go, do something. And so I immediately started to do my research. And being the researcher that I am, I got online and I studied all the different branches of the military. I had no idea the different branches or what was available out there. I just knew I needed to be part of it. I needed to join this organization because I needed to help. And so I ended up with a book called Marine Sniper, and it was about Gunny Hathcock and his story about being a Marine sniper in Vietnam. And I couldn't put the book down. I was obsessed. Everything that he did, all the training as a sniper, I needed to be part of that. And so I talked with my Marine recruiter, and I remember saying, don't give me a desk job. Get me out there. And so we signed me up for an aviation role that was seemed the most interesting to me at the time. And honestly, it was the best job that I could have signed up for. And so I signed up to be a CH-46 helicopter crew chief at the age of 17. And that was kind of my journey through 9/11 and kind of how I made that decision to go ahead and enlist in the Marines.
I'm going to interrupt you right there because the book it's interesting serendipity, because when I went to a military college and I got out and I worked for a nonprofit, but my boss was Hathcock's commanding officer in Vietnam, Jim Land, who's a Major Jim Land, who's all through the book. But one day I had gone to lunch and I called him and I said, I'm not coming back. And he's like, you're not coming back after lunch? I was like, no, I'm not coming back at all. Like, I'm joining the military. It's time to go. And his final words were to me, it's like, whatever you do, don't be a sniper. You're too damn impatient. So I like the fact that was the book that drove you. But so tell us about what you did end up doing. So you were crew on what would you say, a CH-47? CH-46, yeah, the Navy.
Like a 47, but smaller.
Right.
But rotors on top. So let's see, I joined the Marine Corps in 2009, and I went to boot camp out in Parris Island, South Carolina, followed by combat school in North Carolina. And then I went into, I think from there I went to, Pensacola, and learned how to be a rescue swimmer. So that was that fun rescue swimmer school where you get dunked in a helicopter upside down and you have to get out and, swim a mile in your flight suit. And it was very challenging. We did all, the whole course was physical. We would PT in the morning, we'd have lunch, and then we'd swim all afternoon. So to say I was in the best shape of my life is an understatement.
Yeah.
And yeah, so from there we learned how to swim, and then we went to mechanic school. So I learned how to turn wrenches on a CH-46. That was my first time ever probably holding a wrench. I had, I didn't know I didn't have any mechanical skills when I joined, but I loved it. I loved reading the manuals. I loved learning how to, replace the instruments. And then I went to flight school. So then I learned how to become a crew chief and how to be the eyes and ears behind the pilot. So all of that schooling took about a year and a half, a little over a year. And I got to my unit. I think I got there around March of 2005. And then in September, we would deploy to Iraq.
Yep. Jeff, I think I told you could go first today. So there you go.
All right. Well, thank you so much for being here and sharing. It's interesting because some of what you said I didn't pick up from the page, and I will say that we have a bond even beyond just being Marines. My most harrowing experience in the military was in a 46 that went down, and so yeah, we have that. So I want to talk. I want to talk about experiencing 9/11 as a high school student.
Mm-hmm.
Because high school, if you were anything like me, is a very me, and even a little bit more me experience. So you saw what was happening, and you turned me into world, and started on a journey towards helping and making the world better. Now, so since you were so young, and then you did your research, and you ended up choosing the elite branch. Congratulations. And then I kind of want to hear more about this high schooler and how it affected not just your mission moving forward, but your worldview. And did your contemporaries, did your other high school friends feel any of that, or what was going on? Because I know I moisturize and I drink a lot of water, but I was not in high school at that time. So I'm really curious to hear about that experience.
Yeah, so I think it's noble to think that I, as a high schooler, had a worldview, but really, I think what it was more of a calling, and I was still so self-centered. I was like, okay, who's Osama bin Laden? I'll take care of him. I've got this. They just need to send me out there. They don't know that I exist yet, and so I'll take care of all these problems. So I was still definitely very self-centered as a teenager, with maybe a higher calling, I would call it. My constituents, so a lot of my friends, they thought it was cool, and they supported me, but I didn't go to high school with anybody else that ended up serving or signing up at the same time as me. I was definitely one kind of standing out from the crowd, like, hey, I'm going to go do this, and I'll see you guys when I get back.
Well, I mean, you may be underselling yourself a little bit. That whole send me over there. First of all, it's very Marine Corps, and you seem to have grown out of it, which I haven't done yet. So I still have this superhero complex when things happen. So congrats on that. I still think that what you did, or just the way you thought, is a little more outwardly focused than you're going to give yourself credit for. Because it's one thing to say, where's Osama bin Laden, send me there, but to then be sent there and willingly sent there is an act of service. And I commend you for that. And I'm not going to ask a million other questions yet, because I don't want to do that to Ashley, because I'm really super respectful of her.
That's a first. All right.
Wow. Well,
she-
glad we have that on recording. Ben, you'll have to cut that later, wherever you are, right? So Jennifer, my question is, we are approaching the 20th year anniversary. And, since the time, you're 15, you've watched, turned on the TV, you've been impacted your decision to serve. How are you feeling now that we're moving towards, 20 years of, since the attacks of 9/11? Like, how do you feel about it? Like, what are your immediate thoughts?
My immediate thoughts is there's no way I'm that old. The 90s are 10 years ago in my mind. So, I cannot believe that much time has passed. And because it still feels like yesterday. And the reason it still feels like yesterday is because it's a memory that that is alive in our family and in my household. So it's something that we tell our children about, and we tell them, why we served, and what we were serving for, and keeping the memories alive of those who were lost out there. So I think talking about it, remembering 9/11, remembering how we felt, keeps the memory alive, and it makes it feel like it wasn't a whole lifetime ago.
I could not agree more.
So, tell us a little bit about what your nonprofit does now.
So Fixed is an organization I work with, and what they do is they take veterans who are in the justice system. They've gotten into some kind of issue, and we offer peer support and peer case management as they get through their program. It's always a court-ordered program, and we are attached to the courts in San Joaquin, Stanislaus, Merced, Alameda counties out here in Central California. And so we have over 12 case managers who work with veterans one-on-one. We have a 98% success rate of veterans who graduate from the program, and they go on to be productive, have jobs, and eventually a lot of them do become peer mentors as well in the program.
With the 20th anniversary almost upon us, like, what are your plans for that day? Like, how does one appropriately honor such a day?
That's a great question. When you guys reached out to me for this 20 years, I had to take a moment and think, oh my gosh, it has been 20 years, and what are we going to do? I think the world is looking like it's going to be more open at that point. I remember the 10-year anniversary of 9/11, and what we did with the Carl Ross Post in Stockton was we gathered it was like 5 or 6 in the morning. And at the times that the planes were hitting the towers, we took a moment of silence. And then we laid a wreath in the Delta to honor the memory of those who were there. And so this year for the 20th anniversary, I hope to participate in something that's just as meaningful. And I plan to bring my children and my family so that we can all remember together.
How old are your kids?
They're 6 and 8 years old.
Yeah, see, I got one that's 5 and 2 that are 3. So I'm not sure I'm ready to quite broach the subject. I keep trying to tell him Daddy was in the Army, but that doesn't really mean anything to him. So, Ashley, did you have any follow-ups, or Jeff, either one of you?
I was just gonna say it's interesting that your oldest is 7 years from being where you were when you decided your next path, a major defining moment in your life. And I'm curious, what, if any, stories, are they old enough for you to share, like what happened and the choices that you made?
So I think so. And I think so because I tell them often. And so they know, oh, mommy was a veteran. Oh, mommy used to fly on helicopters. Oh, mommy killed bad guys, or, whatever their version of it is. And they know, and I know that they tell their classmates, my mommy's a veteran. And it's so special. So I think, sorry, I forgot your question.
Oh, I was just wondering, like, what you tell them, like, I know you now your military experience, but what do you tell them about 9/11, if anything, and just how has that shaped you, even as a mother?
Yes. Okay. So now I got my train of thought back. Yes. I do. I tell them about 9/11. I told them what happened, that, bad guys flew planes into a building and they were attacking America. And it's a lot. They told me that sometimes they get scared when I tell them stories like that, but they want to hear more. And so they have a ton of questions. And they definitely, play military. That's their jam. My daughter, who's 8 years old, if she grows up and is 15 years old or 16 years old, or however old she is, and tells me that she's going to join the military, now being a mother, gosh, I don't know. It would be a mixed emotion, a mix of, oh my gosh, I'm so proud of her for making this decision. And also that burden of motherhood. And, oh my gosh, my little girl is going to go off and do this. And so I put myself in my mother's shoes, as a 15-year-old, when I came and said, hey, I'm going to do this. And we were at war, and they were so hesitant to be supportive. And they didn't really know what to do. They had all my uncles talking to me and, hey, are you sure? Do you realize we're at war? And I can only imagine how worried they were at the time. And at the end of the day, all they did was support. And now, 20 years later, they couldn't be more proud. And so I hope that, given that opportunity as a mother and now sharing that legacy with my children, that I would be in those same shoes.
Thank you. Thanks.
Yeah.
Ashley?
I am just enjoying listening to Jennifer. That's such a remarkable story. Like, I think about my own experiences and I'm just like, man, I was like seven or eight, right? So I'm a few years behind you. And I remember like those defining moments, and it wouldn't hit me until much later, till I was in high school, about service. But now that you've kind of overlaid like the complexity of now being a mother who, you might have children who join, and the fact that, we have to continue to remember why this, like, for all those who have, paid the ultimate sacrifice, it's a bit of loss of words. But what I can say is, overall, this impacts everyone differently. And I think we all need to remember in a way that's meaningful to one another. And you just coming on and sharing your story and how it's inspired you, I'm sure will inspire others and continue them. And I'm sure one day your kiddos will listen to this too and say, my mom's a badass. Yes, all of the above, right? So yeah, I have more just comments than questions, because I'm just enjoying listening.
All right, well, Jennifer, we will give you the last 2 minutes for any sort of parting thoughts you have on, absolutely anything.
Okay. So I think, first of all, it's an honor to be brought on here to share my story. I'm so humbled and honored that to be included in this series. And I'll say that I've been out of the Marine Corps now since 2009. So it's been a minute. It's been actually, 12 years now that I've been out, and I've gone to do great things. Joining the Marine Corps was one of the greatest decisions I've ever made. It was a huge leaping off point for me in my education and professional background. Like you mentioned at the beginning of the show, I'm the CEO of J. Vollbrecht Consulting, and we do government contracting. And so I still very much in my professional career have an attachment to a national security mission. And so I would say that, throughout all the way from from 9/11 that event shaped not only my decision to serve in the military, but my professional career. And I plan to stay in this line of work for as long as it's still fun and meaningful for me, and building teams and supporting veterans.
Yeah, well, yeah, I mean, it's a good thing to end on. We appreciate the time you've taken to spend some time with us today. For everyone else who's listening, remember to subscribe to the Tango Alpha Lima podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you listen to podcasts. While you're there, review and rate us. If you want to send us feedback, you can leave a comment on YouTube or Facebook, or you can send us an email at tangoalphalima@legion.org. Again, Jennifer, thank you so much for joining us. Everybody else, we will see you. Bye.